My name is Trina, 32 years old and living what most would call a successful life as a finance director in Chicago. That was until I scrolled through Instagram and discovered my brother was getting married in 2 weeks. No invitation had arrived. When I called my mother, her words cut deeper than any knife could. "Sorry, dear. This event is only for the people we actually love," Dad added. "Some people just don't belong at family celebrations, so I booked a trip to Bali instead." I never imagined what would unfold while I was away. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit subscribe and join me on this journey of heartbreak and unexpected redemption. Growing up in suburban Minnesota, our family of 5 appeared picture perfect to outsiders. My older brother James, younger sister Christy, and I lived in a spacious colonial home with a manicured lawn and white picket fence. But behind closed doors, the dynamics were painfully clear. I was the middle child, perpetually caught between the golden boy and the precious baby girl. From my earliest memories, the favoritism was unmistakable. James received a new bicycle for his 10th birthday, while I got a second-hand one for mine. Christy had an elaborate Sweet 16 party, while my parents forgot mine entirely, only remembering 3 days later when I mentioned it during dinner. These small inequities accumulated over years, creating an invisible wall between us. Despite the uneven playing field, I excelled academically. While James struggled with grades and Christy floated by on charm, I graduated top of my class. The disparity in how we were treated became even more pronounced when college discussions began. "James needs our financial support more than you do," my mother explained when they paid his full tuition while offering me nothing. "You've always been independent, Trina. We know you'll figure it out." And figure it out I did. I worked 30 hours weekly at a local bank while carrying a full course load, earning scholarships and graduating with honors in finance. Meanwhile, James changed majors 4 times before settling on business management, costing my parents an extra 2 years of tuition. Christy attended an expensive private university where she majored in communications but spent most of her time socializing. After college, our paths diverged further. I secured a position at a prestigious financial firm in Chicago, climbing the corporate ladder through determination and grit. Within 8 years, I became the youngest finance director in company history. My apartment overlooking Lake Michigan and my comfortable savings account reflected years of hard work and careful planning. James, however, bounced between jobs, always with elaborate explanations for why each position wasn't the right fit. Every few months he called with another crisis, needing immediate financial assistance: car repairs, rent payments, credit card debt. Though it strained my budget during those early career years, I helped when I could. Christy followed a similar pattern after graduation, working briefly at a PR firm before quitting to find herself. Her finding process apparently required designer clothes and frequent vacations funded by our parents. When she finally settled into a marketing role, she still called me regularly for small loans to cover her lifestyle. The emotional distance grew alongside our different life trajectories. 5 years ago, things shifted noticeably. My parents stopped calling except when they needed something. James only reached out for financial help. Christy occasionally texted, but conversations remained superficial. Our last full family gathering occurred at Thanksgiving 3 years ago. The tension was palpable throughout dinner as my parents fawned over James and Christy while barely acknowledging my recent promotion. When I mentioned purchasing my apartment, my mother quickly changed the subject to Christy's new haircut. That night, I drove back to Chicago with a heaviness that never fully lifted. Last year, I discovered James was engaged through a Facebook announcement. I wasn't tagged in the post despite being active on the platform. Scrolling through comments, I saw congratulations from distant cousins and high school acquaintances I barely remembered. Everyone seemed aware of this major life event except me. I tried calling James to congratulate him, but he sent me to voicemail. My text received a tour thanks 12 hours later. When I reached out to my mother for details, she provided vague responses about the wedding being still in early planning stages. Through mutual friends, I learned they had already booked a venue for June 15th. In April, I discovered their wedding registry online. Looking through requested gifts ranging from expensive china to luxury appliances, I felt a mix of hurt and confusion. I even found the venue's website featuring their names and wedding date prominently displayed. Still, no invitation arrived in my mailbox. As weeks passed, subtle references to wedding preparations appeared on my family members' social media. Christy posted about bridesmaid dress fittings. My mother shared photos of flower arrangements. James uploaded pictures from his bachelor party. Each post deepened the pain of exclusion, a silent confirmation that I had somehow become an outsider in my own family. By early June, 2 weeks before the wedding date, I had to accept the truth. The invitation wasn't lost in the mail. It was never sent. After years of being the reliable one, the one who achieved despite lack of support, the one who offered financial assistance whenever asked, I was being deliberately excluded from one of the most significant family events. The realization crushed me, but I had no idea how much worse it would get when I finally confronted them about it. The morning I decided to call my mother about the missing invitation, my hands trembled as I dialed her number. 3 rings passed before she answered with an unusually cheerful, "Hello, darling." Her tone made me hesitate momentarily, doubting my concerns. Maybe there had been a mistake after all. "Hi, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I wanted to talk to you about something important." "Of course, dear, what is it?" She sounded distracted, and I could hear paper rustling in the background, likely wedding preparations. "The wedding is in 2 weeks and I still haven't received an invitation," I said, attempting to sound matter-of-fact rather than accusatory. I was wondering if it got lost in the mail. The silence that followed stretched for several seconds. When she finally spoke, her voice had transformed completely, frost replacing warmth. "Trina, there's no easy way to say this." She paused again, then continued with clinical detachment. "Sorry, dear, this event is only for the people we actually love." The words hit me like a physical blow. My breath caught, and for a moment I thought I'd misheard. "What did you just say?" I whispered. "You heard me," she replied. "James and Marissa want their special day surrounded by people who have been supportive and present. You've made your choices about family and now we're making ours." Before I could respond, I heard my father's voice in the background asking who was calling. My mother must have explained because seconds later he was on the line. "Trina," he said, his voice carrying the authoritative tone he used when I was a child being reprimanded. "Your mother is right. Some people just don't belong at family celebrations. You've always kept yourself separate from us, focused on your career and your life in Chicago. This shouldn't come as a surprise." Tears streamed down my face as I struggled to comprehend their cruelty. "I've always been there when any of you needed me," I managed to say. "I've sent money, given advice, listened to problems. How can you say I'm not supportive?" my mother scoffed. "Writing checks isn't the same as being present, Trina. You think you're better than us with your fancy job and apartment. James needs people who understand him around on his wedding day, not someone who judges his choices." "I've never judged him," I protested, but my father cut me off. "We need to go. There's a meeting with the caterer in 20 minutes. "Goodbye, Trina." The line went dead. I sat motionless, phone still pressed to my ear, their words replaying in my mind. "Only for people we actually love. Some people just don't belong." The finality of their rejection overwhelmed me. This wasn't about a forgotten invitation or an oversight. They had deliberately excluded me because in their eyes I wasn't worthy of being called family. My body reacted before my mind could process what had happened. I ran to the bathroom just in time to vomit, my stomach heaving violently. Afterward, I slid down against the cool tile wall, hugging my knees to my chest as sobs racked my body. Hours passed as I remained there, alternating between crying and staring blankly at nothing. Night fell and still I couldn't move. Their words had unlocked a lifetime of memories reframed through this new lens of conditional love. Every achievement dismissed, every request for help, every holiday where I felt like an afterthought, suddenly made perfect sense. I had never truly been accepted, merely tolerated. I called in sick to work the next day, unable to compose myself enough to function. Around noon, my doorbell rang. It was Ashley, my coworker and closest friend in Chicago, holding a bag of soup from my favorite deli. "You never miss work," she said, concern evident in her expression as she took in my red eyes and disheveled appearance. "What happened?" The caring in her voice broke through my numbness. Words poured out as I told her everything, from the discovery of the wedding plans to the devastating phone call. Ashley listened without interrupting her expression, shifting from shock to anger on my behalf. "That's not family," she said firmly when I finished. "That's emotional abuse. No one deserves to be treated that way, especially not by people who are supposed to love you unconditionally." Her validation released something in me, permission to feel the rage beneath my hurt. "I don't know what to do now," I admitted. "The wedding is in 2 weeks. Am I just supposed to sit at home knowing they're all together celebrating without me?" Ashley's eyes lit up. "No, you're supposed to be on a beach somewhere, incredible, showing yourself the love they've failed to give you." She pulled out her phone. "Let's find you the most amazing vacation spot imaginable, somewhere you've always wanted to go." For the next hour, we browsed travel sites. Slowly, the idea of escaping during the wedding took shape, transforming from a reaction to a deliberate choice. When Bali appeared on the screen, something resonated. The spiritual retreats, beautiful beaches, and distance from everything familiar appealed to my shattered heart. This is it, I said, pointing to a 3-week package that included yoga, meditation, and cultural experiences. The dates perfectly span the wedding and the weeks surrounding it. It's perfect, Ashley agreed. And every time they try to reach you during some wedding crisis, you'll be sipping a tropical drink with your phone turned off. For the first time since the call, I felt a small spark of hope. Perhaps this rejection, painful as it was, could become a doorway to something better. I booked the trip that afternoon, investing in myself the way my family never had. In the days that followed, I prepared for my journey both practically and emotionally. I cleared my work schedule, shopped for appropriate clothing, and researched Baylane's culture. Each step in planning brought a small measure of healing, redirecting my focus from what I was losing to what I might gain. The night before my departure, I wrote a brief email to my brother. "Congratulations on your wedding. I wish you happiness despite the circumstances. I'll be traveling during this time as I'm clearly not welcome at your celebration." I didn't mention where I was going or when I'd return. After sending it, I turned off all notifications from my family members. For the next 3 weeks, I would prioritize my own well-being over their expectations for the first time in my life. As my flight took off the next morning, I gazed out the window at Chicago growing smaller beneath me. The pain hadn't disappeared, but alongside it grew something new, a sense of possibility. A trip born from rejection might just become the journey that saved me. The 22-hour journey to Bali, with its layovers and cramped airplane seats, should have been exhausting. Instead, each mile that carried me farther from Chicago felt like shedding another layer of obligation. By the time the plane began its descent into Denison, a strange lightness had replaced the heaviness in my chest. The first breath of tropical air hit me like awakening from a long sleep. Humid, fragrant, with unfamiliar flowers, it filled my lungs as I stepped onto the airport tarmac. Palm trees swayed against a brilliant blue sky, and the distant sound of gamelan music floated through the terminal. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than pain, curiosity, wonder, the tiniest flutter of joy. A driver arranged by the retreat center waited with a sign bearing my name. During the hour-long ride to Ubud, I watched the landscape transform from busy city streets to terrace rice fields glowing emerald green in the sunlight. Small temples adorned with colorful offerings appeared beside the road, and local villagers smiled and waved as we passed. "First time in Bali?" the driver asked, meeting my eyes in the rearview mirror. "Yes," I replied. "First time anywhere in Asia, actually." He nodded approvingly. "You picked good time to come, very peaceful now, good for healing." His words startled me. How could he know I needed healing? But his attention had already returned to navigating the narrow roads, leaving me to wonder if something in my expression had revealed my wounded spirit, or if perhaps everyone who came to this island was seeking some form of restoration. The retreat center exceeded my expectations. Nestled among rice paddies with views of distant volcanic peaks, it featured individual bungalows surrounding a central pavilion. My accommodation offered simple luxury with teak furniture, a canopy bed draped with mosquito netting, and an open-air bathroom where I could shower beneath the stars. After settling in, I wandered to the main pavilion where a welcome gathering was beginning. 24 travelers from various countries sat in a circle on cushions, each looking equal parts apprehensive and hopeful. A Baylane's woman introduced herself as Pooh, the retreat director. "Why have you come to Bali?" she asked the group. "Not the reason you tell others, but the true reason in your heart." People shared various motivations. Career burnout, relationship endings, spiritual seeking. When my turn came, I surprised myself with my honesty. "My family told me I wasn't loved enough to attend my brother's wedding," I said, voice quavering slightly. "So instead of sitting at home feeling unwanted during it, I came here to figure out why their rejection hurts so much and how to move forward." Murmurs of sympathy circulated, but what struck me most was the absence of shock. No one seemed to find my situation unbelievable or extraordinary. In that moment, I realized how universal pain is, how many people carry similar wounds beneath polite surfaces. 2 participants approached me after the gathering. Maria, a 36-year-old artist from Spain with silver-streaked dark hair and paint-stained fingers, embraced me immediately. "Families can be the source of our deepest wounds," she said. "I came here after not speaking to my parents for 3 years. Perhaps we can help each other heal." Devon, an Australian yoga instructor with kind eyes and a gentle voice, offered a different perspective. "Sometimes the universe removes people from our lives to create space for something better. I'm curious to see what Bali brings into the space your family has created." Their warmth and immediate acceptance caught me off guard. These strangers offered more genuine connection in 5 minutes than my family had in years. We agreed to meet for breakfast the following morning, forming an instant alliance of wounded healers. The retreat schedule provided structure without rigidity: morning yoga as the sun rose over the rice fields, meditation sessions in a bamboo pavilion, cultural excursions to local temples and villages, free time for exploring or resting, evening gatherings for sharing and reflection. During the first few days, I moved through activities like a sleepwalker, physically present but emotionally distant. The wedding date loomed in my mind despite my attempts to forget it. But gradually, Bali began working its subtle magic. A breakthrough came during our hike to a hidden waterfall 4 days into the retreat. The trail wound through dense jungle, occasionally opening to reveal stunning vistas. The physical exertion of climbing steep paths and crossing streams demanded full attention, leaving no room for rumination. When we finally reached the waterfall, its power took my breath away. Water thundered 50 ft down a rock face into a crystal-clear pool. Without hesitation, I stripped to my swimsuit and plunged into the cool water. The shock of cold against my skin, the roar of falling water drowning out all thought, the buoyancy of my body in the natural pool combined in a moment of pure presence. Floating on my back, gazing up at sunlight, filtering through jungle canopy, I experienced my first moment of genuine peace since discovering the wedding. My body existed here in this perfect place, while my brother's wedding preparations continued thousands of miles away. Both were true simultaneously. And somehow that realization liberated me. "You're smiling," Maria observed as I emerged from the pool. "First real smile I've seen from you." I touched my cheeks, surprised to find them curved upward. "I just realized I can be happy here while sad things are happening elsewhere. Both can exist at once." The days began flowing together in a pleasant rhythm. Morning meditation helped me observe painful thoughts without being consumed by them. Yoga reconnected me with a body I'd neglected while focusing on career advancement. Cultural experiences expanded my perspective beyond personal concerns. By the end of the first week, I'd formed genuine friendships with Maria Devon and several others. Our conversations during meals and free time delved deeper than the polite exchanges I was accustomed to in Chicago. We discussed childhood wounds, relationship patterns, spiritual questions, and healing journeys without pretense or judgment. When the actual wedding day arrived, I woke before dawn and walked alone to a small temple near the retreat center. Sitting cross-legged before an altar adorned with flowers and offerings, I lit a candle and set an intention to release expectations of family love that had never been fulfilled. Tears flowed freely but differently than before, cleansing rather than drowning. Later that afternoon, while the wedding ceremony would be taking place in Minnesota, I joined a Balan cooking class. Learning to prepare local dishes alongside Maria and Devon, laughing at our clumsy attempts to wrap banana leaf parcels, I realized hours had passed without thinking about what was happening back home. The absence of pain was so noticeable, it stopped me mid-motion, spice-filled spoon hovering above a bubbling pot. "Everything okay?" Devon asked, noticing my sudden stillness. "Yes," I replied, surprised by the truth in it. "Everything is actually okay right now." That evening before bed, I checked my phone for the first time in days. A text from my sister waited. "Hope you got James something nice from the registry. Mom's expecting a generous gift since you skipped the wedding." The entitled assumption that I would send an expensive present despite being explicitly uninvited reignited anger. I thought I'd processed without responding. I blocked her number, then did the same for my parents and brother. The relief was immediate and profound. For the remainder of my trip, I would be truly unreachable. The second week in Bali brought deeper exploration. With the wedding behind me, I embraced the retreat experience fully. Sunrise meditation became my favorite time of day. Cultural excursions to ancient temples inspired awe at traditions that had endured for centuries. Conversations with new friends challenged long-held beliefs about obligation and worthiness. "Family is who treats you like family," Maria told me one evening as we walked through rice terraces painted gold by sunset. "Blood means nothing if there's no love behind it." I was beginning to understand this truth, not just intellectually but emotionally. The absence of my biological family had created space for connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation. For perhaps the first time, I felt chosen rather than tolerated. The pain hadn't disappeared entirely. Occasionally, memories ambushed me, bringing fresh waves of hurt. But increasingly, these moments passed quickly, like brief rain showers in Bali's tropical climate rather than the endless emotional downpour I'd experienced before arriving. As my second week in paradise drew to a close, I felt stronger and more centered than I had in years. I'd discovered joy independent of external validation. I'd built connections with people who appreciated me without conditions. I'd begun the process of redefining family on my own terms. But the universe wasn't finished with my lesson. On the morning beginning my final week in Bali, I woke to dozens of notifications on my phone, all from email since I'd blocked text messages and calls. My peaceful retreat was about to collide dramatically with the world I'd temporarily escaped. The morning sun streamed through bamboo blinds, creating dappled patterns across my bed as I stretched contentedly. 2 blissful weeks had passed in this paradise, healing wounds I hadn't realized ran so deep. Reaching for my phone to check the time, I was startled by the notification count. 47 new emails. Something was clearly wrong. Scrolling through the list, I saw multiple messages from my mother, father, brother and sister, each with increasingly urgent subject lines. Emergency, please read. Trina, we need you now. Wedding disaster, please respond. Where are you? My heart raced as anxiety resurfaced. Had something terrible happened? Was someone hurt or ill? Despite their treatment of me, I couldn't ignore the possibility of a genuine emergency. I opened the earliest email from James, dated 3 days ago. Trina, we have a huge problem. The wedding venue called today saying they're cancelling because our final payment didn't go through. Apparently they never received the deposit Dad sent last month either. They've given away our date to another couple. We have 8 days to find a new venue and somehow come up with the money. Please call as soon as possible. The next email from my mother elaborated. Your brother is devastated. We've called every venue within 50 m and nothing is available on such short notice. The caterer won't refund our deposit because it's too late to cancel. The florist said the same. Everything is falling apart. We need your financial expertise to sort through this mess. My father's message was more direct. Trina, whatever issues you have with the family need to be set aside. Your brother needs approximately $25,000 to secure a new venue transfer, all services, and save this wedding. As the only one of my children with substantial savings, it's your responsibility to help. Call immediately. My sister's email contained no greeting, just accusations. Thanks for abandoning the family when we need you most. While you're off sulking somewhere, James's wedding is imploding. Mom's had 2 panic attacks already. Dad's talking about taking out a second mortgage. All because you decided to be selfish and disappear when you didn't get your way. If you ever cared about any of us, you'll send the money they need right now. Email after email documented the escalating crisis. The wedding was 8 days away, then 7, then 6. The tone shifted from urgent request to outright begging. My mother's most recent message, sent just hours ago, struck a particularly manipulative chord. Trina, darling, I know we've had our differences, but we miss you terribly. The wedding wouldn't be complete without you. James and Marissa have been asking about you constantly. Please come home and help us through this difficult time. We love you so much. The abrupt change from this event is only for people we actually love to. We miss you terribly was so transparent. It would have been laughable if it weren't so painful. They didn't want me. They wanted my financial rescue. I set the phone down and walked to my bungalow's small porch, looking out over the lush landscape while my mind processed this unexpected development. The irony wasn't lost on me. After explicitly uninviting me after stating clearly that I didn't belong at family celebrations, they now expected me to finance the very event I wasn't welcome to attend. At breakfast, I shared the situation with Maria and Devon. We sat at our usual table on the outdoor terrace, tropical fruit and Bayline's coffee before us as I recounted the email contents. They banned you from the wedding but now want you to pay for it. Maria's expression reflected disbelief. That's beyond entitled. That's delusional. Devon nodded in agreement. Sounds like they've treated you as an ATM rather than a sister for years. This is just the most extreme version of their usual pattern. The thing is, I said, stirring my coffee absently, a small part of me still wants to help. It's James's wedding day. Despite everything, I don't want it ruined. That's because you're compassionate, Maria replied. But compassion for others shouldn't come at the expense of compassion for yourself. What message would it send if you rescue them after how they treated you? That their behavior is acceptable, I answered quietly, the truth of it settling heavily. That they can discard me when it's convenient and retrieve me when they need something. Exactly. Devon said, boundaries aren't just about saying no to others. They're about saying yes to yourself and your own worth. Throughout that day, more emails arrived. My brother finally revealed the full story behind the venue cancellation. I should have told you everything from the beginning. The truth is, I've been struggling with some gambling issues. What started as poker nights with friends escalated to online betting. I got in deep with some high-interest loans to cover losses. When Dad sent the venue payment, I intercepted it thinking I could double it quickly and no one would know. Obviously, that didn't work out. Please, Trina, I'm desperate. Marissa doesn't know the real reason for the cancellation. If she finds out, she might call off the wedding entirely. My mother's latest email confirmed this was no isolated incident. Your father and I spent our retirement fund bailing James out 3 times already. We didn't tell you because we were ashamed. The wedding savings were our last significant funds. We can't go to family or friends again because everyone has already helped repeatedly. You're literally our last hope. My sister's message revealed her contribution to the crisis. I know I should have been more careful with the budget, but the bridesmaids' dresses in the original plan were so boring, and the flowers weren't what I envisioned for my brother's wedding. The photographer James wanted wasn't good enough. I might have pushed for several upgrades without consulting anyone about costs, but that's no reason for everything to fall apart. Now the picture became clearer with each revelation. My brother's gambling addiction, my parents enabling his behavior while hiding the truth, my sister's entitled attitude in costs higher. Years of financial mismanagement culminating in this desperate moment. That evening I met with Pooh, the retreat director, seeking perspective from someone removed from Western family dynamics. In Bali, we believe family karma is the strongest connection between souls, she said as we sat in the meditation pavilion. But karma does not mean you must accept mistreatment. Sometimes the greatest gift to others is allowing them to experience the consequences of their actions. I feel guilty even considering not helping, I admitted. Doesn't that make me as bad as them? She smiled gently. There is difference between revenge and boundaries. Revenge seeks to hurt others. Boundaries protect yourself from being hurt. Ask yourself if you help now, what happens next time, and there will be next time if nothing changes. Later, during a special meditation session focused on releasing unhealthy attachments, I experienced a moment of profound clarity. Visualizing myself repeatedly rescuing my family members, I saw how this pattern had prevented their growth while draining my resources, physical, emotional, and financial. My help wasn't helping. It was enabling behaviors that ultimately harmed everyone involved. By the time I returned to my bungalow that night, my decision was made. I would respond, but not with my checkbook. Opening my laptop, I crafted a careful email addressed to all 4 family members. I've received your messages about the wedding crisis. I'm sorry you're facing such difficulties, especially so close to the event. However, I will not be sending money to resolve this situation. For years, I've responded to financial emergencies without asking questions. I've accepted being taken for granted. I've tolerated being treated as an outsider until my resources were needed. That pattern ends today. James, I hope you seek professional help for your gambling addiction. Mom and Dad, I hope you explore why you've enabled behavior that has drained your retirement. Christy, I hope you reflect on the consequences of prioritizing appearances over realities. I wish you all well in finding a solution that doesn't involve using me as an emergency fund. I deserve better than conditional love, and you deserve the opportunity to solve problems you've created. Trina, I sent the email, then closed my laptop with a sense of both sadness and liberation. Within hours, the responses flooded in. My brother oscillated between apology and manipulation. My mother expressed shock at my cruelty during a family crisis. My father threatened to remove me from his will. My sister called me names I hadn't heard since middle school. The most revealing message came from my mother. After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us. We raised you, fed you, clothed you. The least you could do is help your brother in his time of need. If you don't send the money immediately, don't bother coming home for Christmas or any future family events. You're choosing to end your relationship with this entire family. The threat that was meant to terrify me instead confirmed I'd made the right decision. Conditional love wrapped in obligation wasn't love at all. Family that only wanted me for what I could provide wasn't truly family. I forwarded her email to Maria, who responded within minutes. Congratulations. They've shown their true colors so clearly that you never need to doubt your decision. That's a gift, even if it doesn't feel like one right now. She was right. The veil had been completely lifted. For years, I'd clung to the hope that somewhere beneath the favoritism and manipulation, my family truly loved me. Now I had written proof that their definition of love was purely transactional. That night, as a tropical storm battered the retreat center with wind and rain that matched my emotional turbulence, I cried for the family I had wanted rather than the one I actually had. I cried for the little girl who had tried so hard to earn love that should have been freely given. I cried for the adult who had continued the pattern far too long. But when morning came, bringing with it that particular freshness that follows a storm, something had shifted within me. The tears had washed away not just grief but also illusion. I stood at the threshold of my final week in Bali, unburdened by false hope, ready to embrace whatever came next with clear eyes and an open heart. The morning after sending my refusal email, I woke feeling lighter despite the storm of family outrage. During breakfast with Maria and Devon, my phone continuously buzzed with notifications. I had silenced it, but could still see the screen lighting up with incoming messages. "Aren't you going to check those?" Devon asked, nodding toward my phone as it vibrated for the 12th time in 30 minutes. "Not yet," I replied, spreading passion fruit jam on warm bread. "I'm enjoying my breakfast with friends who actually want my company, not just my money." Maria raised her coffee cup in a toast to boundaries and peaceful breakfasts. Eventually, curiosity won out. Excusing myself after finishing my meal, I found a quiet spot in the garden to review the bombardment. The messages had escalated in both frequency and intensity, revealing new layers to the family dysfunction I'd enabled for so long. James had sent the most messages, his tone swinging wildly between contrition and accusation. "I understand why you're upset about the wedding invitation. That was wrong, and I should have stood up to Mom and Dad. Please help me fix this mess, and I promise things will be different." An hour later, "If you cared at all about me, you wouldn't let my wedding be ruined over money. This is the most important day of my life, and finally, fine, I admit it. The gambling got completely out of control. I'm $42,000 in debt beyond what Mom and Dad know about. Some of the people I owe aren't exactly patient. If I don't pay at least part of it back soon, Marissa could be marrying a guy with broken kneecaps. Is that what you want?" My mother's messages revealed another layer of manipulation. She'd apparently begun contacting mutual friends and distant relatives, spinning a story about my abandonment of the family in crisis. "Just got off the phone with Aunt Pam. She was shocked to hear you've refused to help your own brother. Everyone is talking about how you've changed, become selfish and cold. Is that the reputation you want? People asking what happened to that sweet Trina they used to know." My father's approach was more direct. "I've spoken to my lawyer about removing you from the will. You have 24 hours to reconsider your position before I make permanent changes to all legal documents. The house you grew up in, the family heirlooms, everything will go to James and Christy exclusively." Christy's messages were the most explicitly hostile. "You've always been jealous of the attention James and I received. Now you're sabotaging his wedding out of spite. You're pathetic, sitting alone somewhere while actual human beings with hearts are suffering. I always told Mom and Dad you were different, that something was wrong with you. Thanks for proving me right." Reading these messages should have hurt, but instead they crystallized the toxic dynamics I'd been embedded in for decades. Each family member was playing their well-established role. James, the troubled golden child. Mom, the manipulative director. Dad, the distant enforcer. Christy, the entitled princess. And I had played my assigned role too perfectly, the responsible one, who could always be counted on to fix everything while expecting nothing in return. I brought the phone to my meeting with Pooh, our scheduled one-on-one session, to discuss personal growth intentions. "May I share something with you?" I asked, indicating the messages. She nodded, taking the phone and reading quietly, her expression remaining calm despite the vitriol displayed on the screen. When she finished, she placed the phone face down on the table between us. "In Bayline's tradition, we believe negative energy can travel through words, even written ones," she said. "What I see here is desperate attempt to pull you back into old patterns using most powerful weapons. They have guilt, obligation, and fear. It's working at least partially," I admitted. "I still feel responsible somehow, like I'm being cruel by refusing to help." "This is natural response," she assured me. "But consider who taught you that setting healthy boundaries is cruel. Who benefits from you believing your needs matter less than others?" Her question penetrated to the core of my conditioning. Since childhood, I'd been programmed to believe that putting myself first was selfish, that family obligations trumped personal well-being, that love required endless sacrifice. "They did," I whispered. "They taught me that. And now you are teaching them something new," she replied with a gentle smile. "You are teaching them that you value yourself as they should have valued you all along. This is a difficult lesson for them." "Yes, but necessary one." During our afternoon group meditation, Pooh guided us through a powerful visualization exercise focused on family karma. She instructed us to imagine ourselves at the center of a generational pattern, with threads connecting us to ancestors behind and descendants ahead. "Some threads restrict, bind, choke life from you," she explained as we sat with eyes closed. "These are unhealthy patterns passed through generations. Others support, nourish, give strength. See clearly which threads serve life and which diminish it. Then, with compassion for yourself and all connected to you, cut threads that harm while strengthening those that heal." In my mind's eye, I saw clearly the destructive patterns I'd inherited. The belief that love must be earned, that personal needs should be sacrificed for family approval, that speaking truth was less important than keeping peace. With each visualized cut of these binding threads, I felt energy returning to my body and clarity to my mind. After meditation, I composed a brief response to my family's collective onslaught. I've read all your messages. The threats, manipulation, and attempts to generate guilt only confirm I'm making the right decision. I won't engage further with communications designed to pressure me into enabling harmful behaviors. James, I strongly suggest you tell Marissa the truth and seek professional help for your gambling addiction. Mom and Dad threatening me with disinheritance or social ostracism shows you still don't understand what actually matters to me. Christy, I hope someday you'll recognize the damage caused by perpetuating family dynamics that hurt everyone involved. I am turning off email notifications. I wish you all well in resolving this situation through honest communication and genuine change rather than looking for external rescue. I sent the message, then deleted the email app from my phone entirely. Whatever happened now would happen without my witnessing each desperate attempt to regain control over me. That evening, Maria Devon and several other retreat participants organized an impromptu ceremony at a nearby beach. They hadn't shared details, saying only that I should wear white and meet them at sunset. When I arrived, I found them standing in a circle on the sand holding unlit candles. The ocean stretched before us, painted in fiery orange and deep purple as the sun descended toward the horizon. We wanted to honor your courage, Maria explained, leading me into the center of the circle. Setting boundaries with family is one of the hardest things a person can do. We thought you deserved a ritual to mark this important transition. Devon stepped forward. Each of us here has faced some version of what you're going through. Difficult relationships, painful choices, moments of standing alone. We want to share our strength with you. One by one, they lit their candles and shared brief words of encouragement or personal stories of boundary setting. Some had estranged from toxic parents. Others had left abusive relationships. Several had walked away from harmful religious communities or professional situations. Different circumstances, same core journey, the reclaiming of personal sovereignty. When all candles were lit, Maria handed me a small piece of paper and a pen. Write what you're releasing, she instructed gently. I wrote the responsibility to fix everything. The need for approval from people who cannot give it, the belief that I am only valuable when useful. They led me to the water's edge where a tiny handmade boat fashioned from palm leaves waited. I placed my paper in the boat, and together we set it afloat on the outgoing tide, watching as it carried my released burdens toward the deepening twilight. Water knows how to take away what we no longer need, Pooh said, appearing beside me. It carries away, transforms, returns as something new, like you will do. Watching the small flame on the boat grow more distant, I felt a profound shift. Within myself, the anger and hurt weren't gone, but they had transformed from active wounds to healing scars, evidence of what I had survived rather than what was still harming me. As darkness fell completely and stars emerged above the ocean, we walked back to the retreat center together. For the first time in my adult life, I felt truly part of a community that valued me simply for being myself, not for what I could provide or achieve. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, my family was undoubtedly scrambling to salvage a wedding built on shaky financial foundations and even shakier emotional ones. Part of me still cared what happened to them, but I was no longer willing to sacrifice my self-respect to ease their self-created crisis. Whatever unfolded in Minnesota now would happen without my intervention. This simple fact, which would have terrified me weeks earlier, now felt like the most natural thing in the world. They were adults making their choices. I was an adult making mine. The artificially imposed obligation to rescue them had been written on water and carried away by the tide. My final days in Bali unfolded in a gentle rhythm of healing and discovery. With my family's drama held at arm's length, I immersed myself fully in the retreat experience. Morning yoga sessions no longer found my mind wandering to past hurts. Meditation became deeper, accessing places within myself I hadn't known existed. Cultural excursions revealed not just Balan traditions, but universal human connections, transcending my limited Western perspective. 3 days before my scheduled departure, Maria organized a special dinner for our little group at a restaurant overlooking terrace rice fields. Lanterns illuminated the open-air pavilion as sunset painted the sky in spectacular colors. The 7 of us who had grown closest during the retreat gathered around a table laden with Balan's specialties. I propose a toast, Maria said, raising her glass of Iraq, the local rice wine. To Trina, who came to Bali heartbroken but leaves heart-mended, who arrived seeking escape but departs having found herself, Devon added to boundaries beautifully held. A Japanese woman named Yumi, who had become part of our circle, continued to choosing yourself when others would not. Their words brought tears to my eyes, but unlike the tears I'd shed 3 weeks earlier, these contained no bitterness. Thank you all, I said simply, for seeing me when I was invisible to my own family. After dinner, browsing handicrafts in a nearby market, I received a text from Ashley back in Chicago. How's paradise? Any family updates? I realized I hadn't checked social media since deleting my email app. Finding a quiet corner in a cafe, I opened Instagram for the first time in weeks. Photos from James' wedding immediately filled my feed, posted by distant cousins and family friends. The images revealed a drastically scaled-down celebration. Instead of the lavish country club venue originally planned, they had married in my parents' backyard. The elaborate floral arrangements had been replaced by simple garden flowers in mason jars. The guest list appeared significantly reduced, with perhaps 40 people rather than the 200 originally invited. The most revealing photo showed my brother and his bride cutting a simple cake on the patio where we had played as children. They were smiling, surrounded by immediate family and close friends. Imperfect, unplanned, but genuine in a way the original production might not have been. A strange mix of emotions swept through me. Relief that they had found a solution. Sadness at being excluded from a family milestone. Validation that they had managed without my financial rescue. Pride in maintaining my boundaries despite immense pressure, but mostly a surprising sense of peace. Their lives had continued without me and mine without them. Both paths could exist simultaneously. I closed the app without commenting on any photos and texted Ashley back. Paradise is transformative. Family had a backyard wedding. Everybody survived, including me, especially me. My return flight to Chicago felt entirely different from my departure. 3 weeks earlier, I had fled pain and rejection, seeking escape from unbearable emotions. Now I was traveling towards something rather than away, a new understanding of myself. A recalibrated sense of worth, relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Ashley met me at O'Hare, immediately enveloping me in a warm hug. She stepped back, studying my face with surprise. You look completely different, she said. It's like I don't know how to explain it. Like I finally put down a heavy burden I never realized I was carrying, I suggested. She nodded. Exactly that, your whole energy has changed. During the drive to my apartment, I shared the highlights of my trip, the wedding drama, and my newfound clarity. Ashley listened attentively, occasionally glancing from the road to observe the animated way I now spoke about experiences that would have devastated me a month earlier. I'm proud of you, she said as we arrived at my building. Setting boundaries with family is incredibly hard. Most people never manage it. I couldn't have done it without having somewhere safe to land, I replied, squeezing her hand in gratitude. Your friendship gave me courage when mine faltered. Re-entering my apartment felt like returning to a slightly different dimension. Everything looked the same. The furniture, the lake, the books on shelves, but I experienced it all differently. This space was no longer a refuge from family disappointment, but a reflection of choices made from self-respect rather than external expectations. Returning to work brought similar shifts in perspective. Projects that once consumed me with stress now felt manageable. Office politics that previously upset my equilibrium seemed trivial compared to the emotional gauntlet I'd navigated. Colleagues commented on my renewed energy and focus, with several noting I seemed lighter somehow. 2 weeks after my return, an unexpected email arrived from James. Unlike the desperate messages during the wedding crisis, this one carried a different tone. Trina, I don't know if you'll read this, but I need to say it anyway. You were right to refuse helping with the wedding. After everything imploded, I finally told Marissa the truth about my gambling. She nearly called off the wedding, and honestly, I wouldn't have blamed her. Instead, she made attendance at Gamblers Anonymous a condition of going forward. I've been to 3 meetings now. It's humiliating and terrifying, and also the first honest thing I've done in years. The backyard wedding wasn't what we planned, but it turned out to be exactly what we needed. Simple, focused on our commitment rather than impressing others. I'm not asking for forgiveness or money, or anything really. Just wanted you to know that your refusal to enable me might have been the wake-up call I needed. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I read the message several times, allowing its implications to settle. My brother was seeking help. My boundaries had potentially contributed to positive change rather than merely punishing past behavior. This outcome hadn't been my responsibility or intention, but it validated my difficult choice nonetheless. After careful consideration, I sent a brief reply. James, I appreciate your message and am glad to hear you're getting help. The wedding photos I saw looked lovely, genuine and meaningful. I wish you and Marissa happiness and healing on your journey together. Take care of yourself, Trina. Short, civil, without overenthusiasm or lingering resentment. A measured response reflecting my new approach to family dynamics. Neither cutting contact entirely nor rushing back into old patterns. My mother reached out next, her message less evolved than James's, but showing small signs of reflection. Trina, now that the wedding excitement has passed, I've been thinking about our last conversation. While I still believe family should support each other in times of need, perhaps we haven't always acknowledged your contributions appropriately. If you're open to talking, I'd like to clear the air between us. The old Trina would have immediately agreed, eager for any crumb of recognition. The new Trina recognized the tentative nature of this olive branch non-apologetic acknowledgement wrapped in continued expectation. I responded accordingly. Mom, I appreciate you reaching out. I'm open to improving our relationship, but that would require honest conversation about patterns that have hurt me repeatedly. If you're willing to hear my perspective without becoming defensive or dismissive, let me know and we can arrange a time to talk. Her reply came quickly. I'm your mother. I've always done what I thought was best for you. I don't appreciate being told I need to listen to criticism of my parenting. I smiled sadly at the screen, recognizing the defensive response as confirmation that meaningful change wasn't yet possible. I didn't write back. Boundaries weren't just about saying no to financial requests, they extended to emotional interactions as well. I would engage when genuine dialogue became possible, not before. My father and sister remained silent, apparently not yet ready or willing to shift from established patterns. Their absence from my inbox brought neither surprise nor particular pain. The family tapestry had begun reweaving itself, some threads strengthening others, fading the overall design, transforming into something new. Meanwhile, I focused on enriching the life I'd built independent of family validation. I joined a support group for adults navigating family estrangement, finding comfort in shared experiences and strategies. I continued meditation practices learned in Bali, creating a small spiritual corner in my apartment with candles and items purchased during my trip. Most significantly, I began dating someone I met through a photography class I'd always wanted to take, but had never found time for. Michael approached relationships with refreshing directness and respect for boundaries, qualities I might not have fully appreciated before my transformation. I noticed you don't talk much about your family, he commented during our fourth date, a hike through a forest preserve outside Chicago. It's complicated, I replied, expecting the usual uncomfortable reaction this statement typically generated. Instead, he nodded thoughtfully. Family often is mine too, in different ways. I'm here if you ever want to share that part of your story, but no pressure either way. His response exemplified the kind of relationship I now recognized as healthy, authentic interest without demand, respect for disclosure, timing, acknowledgement of complexity without judgment. Another confirmation that my internal shifts were attracting external circumstances aligned with my true worth. As autumn painted Chicago in brilliant colors, I realized I had created something precious in the wake of rejection, a chosen family of friends who genuinely celebrated my presence, professional fulfillment based on authentic strengths, and a growing capacity to honor my own needs without guilt or justification. The wedding that excluded me had ultimately invited me into a more authentic life. The family that had deemed me unworthy of celebration had inadvertently pushed me toward becoming someone worth celebrating. These paradoxes weren't lost on me as I watched leaves fall outside my window. Nature's reminder that sometimes release precedes renewal. 6 months after my transformative journey to Bali, winter had settled over Chicago in earnest. Snow blanketed the lakefront path, where I took my Sunday morning walks regardless of weather. These solitary strolls had become sacred time for reflection, a weekly check-in with myself that I prioritized above all else. On this particular December morning, bundled against the cold, I paused to watch the sunrise paint the frozen landscape in delicate pink and gold. 6 months felt simultaneously like yesterday and a lifetime ago. So much had changed both externally and within me. My relationship with my family had evolved in ways I couldn't have predicted. James had maintained his commitment to recovery, attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 times weekly. We exchanged occasional texts, mostly brief life updates without the weight of past expectations. During our one phone conversation, he had apologized more fully for his role in excluding me from the wedding. I should have stood up to Mom and Dad, he admitted. I knew it was wrong but took the easy path instead of the right one. I'm sorry, Trina. His accountability, while not erasing the hurt, completely allowed a tentative bridge to form between us. When he shared that he was marking 3 months without gambling, I sent a small gift certificate to a restaurant near his home, suggesting he and Marissa celebrate the milestone. His grateful response felt genuine rather than transactional. My parents struggled more with the new dynamics. My mother alternated between half-hearted attempts at reconnection and passive-aggressive comments about children who abandoned their families. My father remained largely silent, communicating primarily through my mother. Neither had explicitly apologized for their hurtful words or acknowledged their role in creating the painful estrangement. During their annual Thanksgiving invitation, I set clear conditions I would consider attending if we can first have an honest conversation about past patterns and establish healthier ones moving forward. My mother's response was predictable. Families should accept each other without conditions. We certainly never placed conditions on loving you. Rather than arguing or defending myself, I simply declined the invitation and spent the holiday with Ashley's family instead, where I was welcomed warmly without the undercurrent of obligation or judgment that had characterized family gatherings throughout my childhood. Perhaps most surprisingly, Christy had shown the most growth. Initially, she had sided completely with our parents, flooding my phone with accusatory messages. But 3 months after the wedding, she reached out with an unexpected perspective. "I've been thinking about everything that happened. Mom and Dad always treated you differently, and I benefited from that without questioning it. That wasn't fair to you. I'm not saying I understand all your choices, but I'm trying to see things from your side for once." Her acknowledgement, while imperfect, opened the door to several candid conversations about our shared childhood from our different vantage points. These talks revealed how differently we had experienced the same family and how those divergent experiences had shaped our adult perspectives. "I always thought you had it together," she confessed during one late-night phone call. "You seemed so capable and independent. I never realized that was because you had to be, not because you wanted to be." These family developments occupied a different place in my life, now significant, but no longer defining. I had created a rich existence beyond the confines of those relationships, filled with meaningful connections and pursuits that nourished rather than depleted me. The support group for adults navigating family estrangement had become an essential part of my healing journey. Every Wednesday evening, I joined a circle of people who understood the complicated grief of being separated from family while still living authentic lives. We shared strategies for handling holidays, setting boundaries, and processing the cultural shame often associated with family distance. "There's no guidebook for this," our group facilitator often reminded us. "Each of us is writing our own manual for navigating these waters." Through their stories, I recognized that my experience, while painful, was far from unique. Many people struggled with family systems that demanded conformity at the expense of authenticity. Learning that I wasn't alone in these challenges helped dissolve the lingering shame I'd carried about failing at family relationships. My professional life flourished as well. Freed from the energy drain of constant family crisis, I approached work with renewed creativity and focus. 6 weeks after returning from Bali, I presented an innovative financial strategy that earned me a substantial promotion and the opportunity to build my own team. "You've always been talented," my director commented during my performance review. "But there's a confidence in your approach now that wasn't there before. Whatever changed, it suits you." What had changed was fundamental. I no longer measured my worth through others' validation. Each successful project, each problem solved, each team member mentored reflected my authentic capabilities rather than striving to prove my value to an audience that would never fully appreciate it. Perhaps the most significant development was my relationship with Michael. What began as casual dating had deepened into genuine partnership, based on mutual respect and appreciation. He demonstrated daily that love could exist without score. Keeping that closeness didn't require self-sacrifice, that healthy relationships enhanced rather than diminished individual identity. When I finally shared the full story of my family estrangement and Bali journey, his response cemented my trust in our connection. "Thank you for trusting me with that," he said, holding my hand across the dinner table in his apartment. "It helps me understand so much about you, your resilience, your thoughtfulness about boundaries, your appreciation for authentic connection. I'm sorry your family couldn't see the extraordinary person I see." For the first time, I didn't feel the need to defend my family or minimize their behavior. I could accept both his perspective and the complex truth of my family situation simultaneously. "They did the best they could with what they had," I replied. "And now I'm doing the same." As I continued my lakefront walk, that winter morning snow crunching beneath my boots, I reflected on the unexpected gifts that had emerged from rejection. The wedding exclusion that once felt like the ultimate betrayal had become the catalyst for profound personal liberation. The family that couldn't properly value me had inadvertently pushed me toward people who could. The journey hadn't been linear. Even now, certain triggers could momentarily reactivate old pain, The sight of a father and daughter walking together, wedding invitations in my mailbox, Mother's Day card displays, but these moments no longer derailed me. I acknowledged the feelings, honored them briefly, then returned to the present moment where my actual life unfolded in all its imperfect beauty. That evening I attended a small dinner gathering at Maria's apartment. She had moved to Chicago after our Bali retreat, drawn by a gallery interested in representing her artwork. Our friendship had deepened into a sister-like bond, the family we chose rather than inherited. Devon was visiting from Australia, completing our original healing trio for the first time since Bali. As we shared a meal with several new friends, conversation turned to transformative life experiences. When someone asked what had changed me most profoundly, I considered carefully before answering. Learning that rejection can sometimes be redirection, I said finally. What feels like exclusion from where you thought you belonged can actually be the universe making space for where you truly fit. The wedding I wasn't invited to ended up being the best celebration I never attended. Later, walking home beneath a canopy of winter stars, I felt a deep peace that had nothing to do with external circumstances and everything to do with internal alignment. The girl who had desperately sought family approval had transformed into a woman who approved of herself, who recognized her inherent worthiness independent of others' ability to acknowledge it. The wedding rejection had revealed a painful truth: love contingent on usefulness or compliance isn't really love at all. True love, whether from family, friends, partners, or self-exist, it celebrates growth rather than resenting change. It respects boundaries rather than demanding sacrifice. These realizations hadn't come easily, or without grief. I had mourned the family I wished for while accepting the reality of the family. I had released the fantasy that enough achievement or assistance would finally earn the unconditional love that should have been my birthright. I had stopped trying to prove my worthiness to people incapable of seeing it. In that release, I had found something precious. The freedom to build a life aligned with my authentic self rather than others' limited perceptions. The freedom to choose relationships that enriched rather than depleted. The freedom to define family by love's presence rather than blood's obligation. As I reached my building and looked up at the night sky one last time, a final thought crystallized with perfect clarity. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and others is to stop participating in dynamics that diminish everyone involved. Sometimes the greatest gift is the boundary that creates space for genuine transformation. I had stopped trying to belong where I wasn't wanted and had created spaces where I was truly welcomed instead. In doing so, I had discovered that rejection's deepest pain often hides its most profound gift, the invitation to finally fully come home to yourself. Have you ever experienced rejection that ultimately led you somewhere better? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes our most painful moments become turning points toward authentic happiness. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that rejection can sometimes be life's greatest redirection. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And remember that your worth is never determined by those who fail to see it. Music.